Welcome to the NEPA Scene Podcast, the only local live streaming podcast of its kind. We're coming to you from the Accelerator building in downtown Wilkes-Barre. I'm Rich Howells, the founder and editor of NEPA Scene, and tonight we're here with Dustin Switzer, the Dallas-based vocalist, guitarist, and founder of the long-running Dave Matthews Band tribute, A Proud Monkey. We're going to talk about how he discovered Dave Matthews and went on to see him over 50 times, how he has built the world's most accurate Dave Matthews Band tribute and staying dedicated to it for 20 years, acquiring an impressive collection of the same guitars Dave Matthews uses, and painstakingly recreating their sound, finding the right musicians to collaborate with, coming out ahead of the current tribute band Craze, the variety of other musical projects he's played in, racking up over 4,000 live performances in all types of venues, making a living as a working musician, signing a management with special guests, and much, much more. So please stay tuned for the full hour. We would love to hear from you guys down in the comments below. So anything that you want to talk about, if you're a Dave Matthews fan or you're not a Dave Matthews fan, either way, we would love to hear from you in those comments. Anything you want to ask Dustin here, anything you want to add to the conversation. Maybe you've seen Dave Matthews a bunch of times. We would love to hear your experience seeing them here. Before we dive in, I just want to thank our sponsor special guest who's provided us with this great office space and the equipment to make this podcast possible. Special guest is a talent booking marketplace, making it easier for talented people to get discovered and booked. It was founded in 2017 by actor-comedian Damon Wayans Jr. alongside local entrepreneur Chris Jones. You can check them out at specialguestapp.com or download the app on iTunes or Google Play. They just launched merchbooth.com, a free program to help artists and talent professionals create and sell merch online and in person at shows. Many local musicians are already using it right now, as is NEPA Scene and as is Proud Monkey. So you can see some of that stuff over there. Some really nice, high quality merch. You got short sleeve shirts, long sleeve shirts, hoodies, all kinds of stuff.
High vis, so you can use it on the highway.
Yeah. I was gonna say that that yellow really pops.
It does pop. I was when I picked the colors out, I was picking the colors based on the Dave and Tim Live at Luther College double CD, which was a blue and yellow and blue combo. Mm-hmm. So I figured maybe that would resonate with some Dave fans.
Okay.
And I don't think it has.
Not everybody is a yellow fan.
That's part of my OCD about it. I'm like the colors must be exactly like the compact disc that I remember, 1998. Hey, at least I remember.
That's the kind of nerdy shit that we love to talk about.
Absolutely.
Which we're definitely going to get into quite a bit. So this will be a fun one. If you are a nerd, especially a music nerd, you're going to love this one. We also want to thank Parlor Beverages, who's provide us with the best fucking root beer out there now. They have root beer, birch beer, and butterscotch, and you can get these at many local grocery stores as well as online. If you want some shipped directly to you, you can visit drinkparlor.com. Use promo code NEPA Scene for 10% off. Thank you. You're a really good hand model.
I'll tell you, that one's already half empty.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, we got to get you got to get a little bit of sugar in you to get, to
get chatting about Dave Matthews.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I'm already like halfway through mine. You can use promo code NEPA Scene for 10% off. Are you a soda guy? You're not a soda guy?
Absolutely not, Rich.
Yeah. So but have you had Parlor before?
I have sampled one full bottle of each.
Yeah.
And it is the best fucking root beer I've ever had in my life.
See, there you go.
I just don't drink it a lot because brown sugar water.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But it is delicious. And it was founded by a bunch of great friends of mine, Chris, I love Chris, and Aaron Brook, who got me into the music industry 20 years ago. And John Phillips, who I've been many times. I've been John Phillips many times. I've showed up at bars and said, "Hello, I'm John Phillips. I'm here to play music for you tonight." It's always a great honor being John Phillips.
Well, yes, of course.
So I got to get some T-shirts so I can start wearing them on stage.
Wow, right.
Come on, John Fry, let's get on it.
So, speaking of which, what got you interested in music originally? When did you first pick up an instrument?
Well, I've been into music probably my whole life, on and off. I took piano as a young kid, and I thought baseball was a little more important,
Mm.
So I quit the piano and just focused on sports, as most
Yeah, a lot of kids
red-blooded
do.
dudes,
Sure.
do. And then in right around at the end of high school, I had a great friend named Brittany who got me into Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds initially. Like, she would give me these cassette tapes that her brother had, or whatever, cousin or something. And I was like, man, that's great. And at the time I was listening to only like Pumpkins and whatnot. And like literally like Pumpkins, Pearl Jam, like 90s grunge straight up. And I was like, man, this has a groove, you know what I mean? And I started listening to the band, and I was like, holy cow, this drummer's a monster, And I just started picking up this crappy guitar we had laying around in the house.
Every house has at least one, I think.
Yeah, it was actually owned by this old Downs syndrome man that we had living with us at the time, that we like kind of like semi-adopted, and it was a garbage guitar, and I had started just messing around and figuring out how to play chords, and terribly, terribly. I have tapes from back then. It was terrible. It was terrible.
But you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, and I just started. I mean, I took guitar lessons. Maybe when I was in 8th grade or 9th grade, and it didn't really catch on, and I just kind of didn't do anything with it until I had gotten into college. And then once I dropped out of college, I really started aggressively teaching myself just how to play guitar by teaching myself Dave songs, because that was all I was really listening to at the time, and chicks were really into it. So
that helps.
There when you play if you're playing Down in a Hole for a girl, she's not as into it as if you're playing Crash.
Right.
But and then I just kind of, that's it. It was always like the music was always there, but it wasn't until I was like an adult that I really decided that that's the direction I wanted to head in. It happens. Nobody knows they want to be a musician when they're in high school.
Right. Well, what types of bands were you in? Did you play? You played in a lot of other stuff before the Dave Matthews thing, right?
Yeah, most of my bands, like I kind of was more of like a pickup type of guy. Like, I would get gigs thrown at me, and I would just assemble a band of whoever was available, and that's kind of still how it is. But I started teaching myself bass about, I don't know, 15 years ago, and I'd played in a band called Lesson One, which was like Steve O. Husted and Kevin Callahan and Jaconda and those guys, Andy Sloboda and Rob Burns. And then I was with 5% on bass, because like what would happen is the guys in the bands would be like, oh, I don't know, I'm having a kid, can't really go out every weekend, we play for like 6 months. Be like, yeah, whatever, And then I was in a band called Pop Rocks for like a couple of years, and that was really fun. We would do a lot of really cool shows all over the East Coast, and that was pretty cool. But most of the time I really just hustled and played solo and duo shows whenever I got a chance to, and just hustled as much as I could. The solo stuff was always the easiest because I didn't have to ask anybody else, what I mean?
Right.
And it's just kind of when you're there. So I've done thousands of those. I don't even know how many I've done of those, yeah, I mean, the Dave thing was always there, and I was always doing Dave shows maybe from about 2005 or so onward. But they were only like once in a while, once every couple of years or whatever. I didn't really want to make a living copying someone else.
Right.
Like, I wasn't really I was like a little reluctant to like really dive into that all the time. You know what I mean? And to be like, all right, well, I guess I have to be like Dave Matthews, if I want to really make money, or really do what I seem to be best at, or at least what I learned how to play music on. And it wasn't until about 2014 or so that we started like really thinking about doing it more than once a year. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I was in the Collective, a great band called the Collective, for like a year. It was a pretty good time. It was in 2008, and I don't know what happened. There was like a little rift between some of the guys, and we ended up having to do about 40 shows. And it was pretty cool just playing hip hop with a bunch of really good musicians and some of my friends and Kermit and those guys. So that was like a kind of a hectic year. And then I became a dad myself the year after that. So that's when I kind of like was like, boy, I better like either shit or get off the pot here. You know what I mean?
Right. So
like the freelancing stuff was cool and everything, but it wasn't like I always found myself going into bands on the tail end. You know what I mean? So
was that your kind of motivation to kind of do this, to start this project on your own? Was it just you at first, or?
Yeah, well, I think the first show that we did as a Proud Monkey was just me and Aaron Fink, Aaron Fink and I rather, at North Slope in Dallas, where we're at North Slope this Friday.
Yeah.
For Oktoberfest. But I think it was the first time that I called it Proud Monkey and like was like, all right, maybe I should, create an actual tribute. I think if Facebook serves me correctly, I created a page for it back in 2013, but I never named it anything. Because I was doing one or two acoustic shows every so often as a Dave tribute, but I never really named it anything. It wasn't until 2017, I think, with Aaron Fink that we were just doing acoustic shows because he was kind of in between records and just looking to play, and we live two minutes from each other, and we both live 2 minutes from North Slope. So
okay,
we were like, let's play. And it was mayhem. It was the place holds about 125 people, and they were turning people away at the door. It was absolutely
that's
mayhem, so we were like, well, heck, maybe
there's your sign right there.
Maybe let's start thinking about filling it out a little bit, and then we had done I think we had opened Stage West. We were the opening band of Stage West. That's right.
Yeah. You guys were the first.
And that was like one of our first full band shows. I think we had done 1 or 2 shows, and that was when it was with Matt Kester, who's like one of the best like sound engineers you could find on the planet. He was playing drums, and we had Mark Woodyard and Carl in the band, and John Ventry, and we just did that was our first like real full band show, and it was at Stage West. It was really cool. We did a couple shows there. And I think it's a dentist's office now, but, and it just kind of like steamrolled a little bit from there and we started picking up some momentum, and then we lost it all for COVID.
Right.
We lost all of the momentum in the world,
so did everybody else. So,
I mean, it's like, it's crazy. We're still trying to gain ground back up from what we lost from 2020. We had canceled, I think 55 shows that were all pretty solid. So it was kind of, kicking the nards, gotta bring back the nards, man. Gotta bring back the nards.
Wolfman's got nards.
Absolutely.
You get that reference, you leave the name of the movie down in the comments. So even let's go back even before all that. When did you first hear Dave Matthews Band, and like what was your initial impression?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really allowed to listen to a lot of non-religious music up until I was about 10 or 11 years old. I was really only allowed to listen to approved material, which was frustrating at times. And I had gotten into grunge kind of early because my friend's brother had Pearl Jam 10 on tape, and he had a copying machine, and he made me a copy of it. And I was like, oh my God, like, what is this? This isn't about LaShoam and his 82 wives or whatever it is, And I remember I had seen the video for What Would You Say on TV, and this is like, 1994, man.
Oh.
Like 1994 is only 6 years ago. For anybody out there who's wondering, 1994 is 6 years ago.
That math checks out, I
think. And I was like, man, that video is wild. And I never really I was like, I don't know, Smashing Pumpkins is the best band in the world. You know what I mean? Like, I was obsessed with them. I would go up to Circuit City and buy the import, little 3-song imports from Japan that were like $39, And that's how obsessed I was with
remember
Pumpkins.
those.
And it wasn't until right around I was about 16 or so, and I was sleeping in my school student center on one of my free periods, and as you often do,
of course,
the middle of the school day, you know, and she started waking me up. My friend Brittany would put her headphones on me, and she'd wake me up to this like bootleg acoustic tape that she had. I mean, they weren't really bootlegs because they were free, so they were just recordings, but I would always wake up to a different Dave song. And she's like, okay, now wake up. And she'd wake me up gently. Because I like somehow when I was a junior, my schedule got really weird at school, and I had 3 hours free in the middle of the day. And then I had one class, 8th period, which is the last period before, you know, sports or whatever. So I had nothing to do for like 3 hours, you know, and she'd be like, wake up and go to your art class. And I'd like wake up and be like, whoa, you know, and I had the Dave and Tim on, and I started getting obsessed with it, you know, and I was like, man, this stuff is so relaxing. And I started sleeping to it at home. I would put my headphones on and go to sleep at night. And I just like got into the band stuff I heard one of their songs called Number 41, which is a very romantic sounding song. But it's about a guy who stole a bunch of money from Dave, which is weird. But I was like, man, that song is it. That song is it. I am into this band. Like, you know, like, I mean, you know how you are with your bands when you're a kid, like, well, at least our generation, you know, like my kids could care less about bands. Like,
yeah, it's so weird.
You know, I mean, I remember riding my bike to Joe Nardone's Gallery of Sound in Pittston and getting Melancholy Infinite Sadness.
Oh yeah, it was so
at the midnight sale, you know?
Yeah, it was a thing to get those albums.
And my kids don't care at all. But I got really into them, and I had gotten my mom to buy my tickets to my first Dave show, which was in July '98. And I had my SATs that day that they went on sale. So she had to go up and get them for me, and got lawn seats, and it was a phenomenal show. It was like absolutely phenomenal. And I got peed on by a really drunk guy, which was terrible. I was in the lawn. I was having a good time, and I was there with like 4 friends, but they were all, you know. And I'm like, man, my back feels warm. What the hell? And I'm like, look around, and this drunk guy's like, ah! And I'll never forget that face, because he was like, ah! You know, and just like splurting his pee all over everybody, you know. And
excellent first impression.
I was like, this is great. Nothing could be better than this. So I went to see them a month later down in Virginia with Herbie Hancock and the Headhunters. And at the time, they played like their longest show of the modern era, which is like a 4-hour set. And Herbie Hancock and the whole band was on stage, and I was like hooked. And I started just going, you know, 4 or 5 times a year after that. I just take my tax return and you know, buy 5 or 6 tickets, you know, and plan my summer around that, you know what I mean? And I mean, I definitely like listened to probably nothing but Dave Matthews for like a good year and a half at that point, you know what I mean? And I took a step back, and I was like, all right, I gotta, you know, because it became like part of your life, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you're like, at the time, I mean, we didn't have smartphones to stare at all day long. And we couldn't like check up on all of our friends all day long. So what did you do? You listen to your freaking favorite band while you were doing whatever task you were doing around your house. You know what I mean?
And they used to play around here sometimes too, right? Then they play at the at Montage and stuff.
Yeah, they played at Montage right until about 2010.
Yeah.
And I believe Dave told a story that night on stage. He had gotten he's a fan of riding his mountain bike around, get his blood flowing going before a show, you know. And he was riding up behind Montage there, where it goes up a little bit further, and he got harassed by a couple of sheriff's deputies, the rental ones, like where you're just like, we need 82 people who can put a uniform on and come to a show and occupy this space and point that way. You know, and I guess they gave him a hard time, and they made him put his bike on the back of their little, you know, doohickey, and drove him back down. And he told the story on stage, never came back after that. And coincidentally, the booking up there seems to have tilted some type of direction. over the last like 10 years, where, you know, we
For
used to
sure.
get like Tom Petty and A-level acts, and now,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I mean, you know, aside from Breaking Benjamin, I don't think I've gone to a show there in years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're the only band worth seeing up there, in my opinion. You know what I mean? I mean, I haven't really gone to any shows up there besides them, because there's really been nothing that's been interesting as far as I'm concerned. You know
Yeah,
what
it
I
seems
mean?
like all of the better shows are going to, you know, everything in between.
Yeah.
You know, we used to be that nice stop between like Philly and New York.
Yeah.
And now so many venues
People
have
are going
popped
to
up
Bethel
since then. Yeah.
Bethel has popped up as being fantastic. I've been to several shows at Bethel Woods. You can't even compare it. It's amazing. It's amazing up there. I think a real problem with Montage is the traffic.
Yeah, until they get that fixed.
Yeah,
there really is no.
It's a shame. You know?
Yeah.
It's a nightmare. I mean, I've waited 5-6 hours on the mountain to get off the show before. You
Sure.
know? It's wild. It's wild.
Well, I mean, people are getting caught up so much, and you can't even. They'll get there and the show's over.
Yeah,
you know, the
I
band's
walked
already
down the
played,
mountain
like,
one
yeah.
time. It took about 58 minutes. It was pretty rough. I think it was the first Peach Fest.
Oh yeah,
You know, and
that was.
and
nuts.
there was just no buses, and I was like, all right, well, I know how to walk. Like, I'm gonna go that way. You know.
So you're putting together Proud Monkey, and you who are the musicians you're looking for? Were there people you knew, or were you kind of having to put out an ad in the paper, sort of thing? Like, how did you find these guys?
I mean, I'm fortunate where you know, from doing 15 years of pickup bands, of just, you know, hiring whoever is available, I'm fortunate to know a lot of people. And our first drummer was actually supposed to be our friend Tommy Winder, and he had drummed our previous shows, like at the Jazz Cafe back in like 2008, 2010. We played there like every other year or so. And he had passed away of a heart attack a couple of days before what was to be our first actual full band show, which was one of the first smoke-free shows that they did at Breakers.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I asked them really politely at the casino to just please not have cigarettes that night.
Yeah.
You know, I used to smoke cigarettes. I quit a long time ago, but I have a real hard time doing gigs in smoky bars because it's 2022. You know what I mean? And there's really no logic to making people like who don't smoke inhale other people's smoke.
All right.
It seems crazy to me.
Yeah.
You know, like
those were different times.
You know, yeah, they were different times then. But so I had asked them to ban smoking, and they did, and it was fantastic. But he was supposed to do the show with us, and he said, I can't do it, something's going on or whatever, and he died of a heart attack like 2 days after the show.
Jeez.
So I couldn't find anybody. Like, it was 2 days before the gig, and he said he couldn't do it, and I was like, oh my god, like none of the regular people that I would have gone to were available. And luckily Matt Kester was able to do the show, and it was great, you know, and he did a couple more shows with us until we found this guy named Josh Orlando, who he used to fill in with the 5% a lot back in the day. And he's just a phenomenal Sabian sponsored drummer from a town called Croydon, Pennsylvania, which is down across the way from New Jersey, right outside of Philly. And he's just an absolute monster. And he was like, well, yeah, I'd be down for doing some shows, because I think Matt had a bunch of shows with Nowhere Slow, because Nowhere Slow is like one of the busiest bands, I think.
Oh yeah,
around, you know. And Josh was like, yeah, I'll do the show. I'll come up to wherever it was. I think it was Thanksgiving Eve at Breakers, and he just nailed it, because he's just a monster. He's an absolute monster, you know. So then I had met John Ventry right around the same time, and he's probably, I mean, one of the best bass players I've ever seen in my life.
Oh yeah,
you know, and he's actually a licensed pilot too.
Yeah, you know what? He told me about that once.
Yeah,
I was like,
getting
wow,
he's getting there. And he, you know, so he was down. He's down for doing it.
You need to fly to your gig.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're building up towards. You know, we had used Mark Woodyat, who's a phenomenal violinist from Scranton, and then our friend Carl Krupa, who's a saxophone player for the band called The Tribe, and they're phenomenal, like original, like funk jazz fusion thing that they're doing. And now we use a violinist named Mike Van Wyk, who's a super tall, like Dutch guy, you know. I don't know if he's really Dutch. I think he is. I just like to pretend he yeah, he's 6'4" Dutchman. You know, it just rolls off the tongue, you know.
Yeah, go with it.
And our saxophone player is named Tyrone Fredericks Jr. and he's from Reading, and he's he's like a monster. He's one of like the best like saxophone guys you could ever find. And he's got 4 black belts.
Oh shit.
This little skinny guy, and he's got 4 black belts.
Kick your ass.
You kick anybody's ass, you know. And then we use Neil Nicastro, who everybody knows. Neil Nicastro, he's like one of the most like celebrated songwriters, guitarists from around here. And then on keys we have a guy I was introduced to through my drummer named Dave Maddock, who owns his own like amazing music school in a town called Chadsford, Pennsylvania, down in Philly. It's like one of those old time capsule little old-timey Philly towns, you know. And he teaches at the University of Pennsylvania, and he just actually got his retina repaired. He tore his retina last week, so
Jeez.
Feel better, Dave. You know, he's phenomenal, and he's easily one of the best. He's got his master's in jazz theory, so we have a lot of like comparisons to the actual band. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, Dave Matthews Band is like, I mean, incredible, but like their keyboard player had his master's in jazz theory, and so does ours. And, you know, their bass player is a young prodigy, and our bass player is a young prodigy. I'm like the weakest link of the band, which is my favorite link to be. You know, all these guys are absolute monsters. And I'm just like, you know, hey, I've got obsessive compulsive disorder about buying guitars. Do you guys want to show up? You know, that's kind of what it is, you know.
Are you looking for like chemistry when it comes to putting a band together? Are you looking for like who you think is maybe the most talented, or you know what are you?
I look who forever is available.
That's
you know,
the main thing.
That's really like the long and short of it. You know what I mean? My guys that we work with are like so talented that they're so busy all the time. So we're able to do Proud Monkey. You know, kind of enough for now. But they're so busy doing everything else that I'm kind of transitioning into creating a couple more projects just so that I can keep the wheels moving, right? Keep the lights on, you know.
Well, being a working musician, you know, how do you go about doing that sort of thing, you know, for a living? Like, how are you booking shows or putting together enough that you can, you know, make enough to get by?
Right. Well, you know, it's hard as hell, man. It's really difficult because you are essentially marketing. What I've been doing is marketing myself as a commodity, basically, for like the last 20 years, you know what I mean? And for the last like 16 years, I've been doing it like almost exclusively, you know. Like I had a day job when I was first starting out, you know, and I quit that in 2006. But I mean, special guests, I use them. They're great, you know. They get me as many gigs as they can. I have a lot of contacts that I've built up over the years, just that kind of, you have me one night a month or whatever, like something like that, or whatever, once a week or whatever. But for the most part, it's just, you just wait for that phone to beep. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard. When I was first starting out, we had MySpace, and I used to probably book 50% of my gigs through MySpace because the bars had their page, and you'd send the bar a message and they'd say, hey, I can see your video. You've got tour dates.
Right.
Great. Now it's like, you know, the real problem. I mean, the real problem here locally is that there's just a severe lack of venues.
Right.
There used to be, I remember, I pulled up one of my old booking schedules from this band Lesson One I was in, and I think there was 32 venues that in Luzerne and Lackawanna counties that we used to play in as a full band on a weekend. And now I think there's And that was like 2006, 2007. And then now there's a like 4.
Oh, man.
You know, and you know, it's tough. I mean, it's a tough, the bar restaurant business is a really tough business right now.
Right.
The costs are going through the roof. My brother owns a fantastic restaurant in Dallas called Prime. And he said his costs are skyrocketing, you know,
Right.
and it's tough. It's tough, you know, for bars and restaurants to want to invest in, you know, putting a full band or a trio or whatever in there in the hopes that maybe they'll bring in some new customers or that they'll keep customers there longer or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of tough. You know, we had a great scene. I got my start really in this downtown Scranton music scene because I had owned a place in downtown Scranton when I was like 20 years old. I bought a place right around the corner from the Bog, and I like learned how to be a musician from going to the Bog and watching Charles Severa just host this killer open mic, and then there was a ton of great talent. There was all these great bands up there, and we had a killer scene. It was awesome. I mean, there was probably 50 killer bands from up there.
Yeah.
And then it just like, you know, and the scene now, I feel bad for young kids trying to start a band because there's really no hope for them to get gigs.
Yeah.
Like if they're trying to play their own music, you know what I mean? And that's why like I've kind of like leaned towards the tribute route because people can't afford tickets anyway. Like the average like person like can't afford it.
You're priced out of
$500 ticket to go see. Like terrible. I just went to see Pearl Jam, one of my favorite bands of all time. It was my first time seeing them on September 11th in New York City.
Oh wow!
And I bought my ticket 2.5 years ago. It was $100, and the tickets in my row were scalping for like $6,500.
Jesus Christ!
And I'm like, what the hell is going on? How is the normal how's a normal kid going to be able to go buy like a $28 concert ticket to go see their favorite band like we used to be able to?
Right.
You know, I don't know.
No, you don't get those. You don't get those experiences anymore. And even if if you want to meet the band or whatever, here's another $500, $600 on top of your ticket price or whatever, just to get an autograph.
It's brutal, and I'm sure like a lot of it doesn't really have to do with the bands. It's a lot of the legalized reselling that they've done. Right. You know? A great hack that I found for getting face value concert tickets is to just join the fan club of the band. You know, you join the fan club for $35 a year. You give them the $35 and they give you member pre-sales, and then you can get good seats for face value.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy. And people are like, oh, it's extra money. And then it's like, well, you know,
it's extra money. You're not giving Live Nation, who's adding, how many,
if you want to see this, you're going to have to,
that's the Ticketmaster fees and everything else that they add to it.
Yeah. And you end up getting amazing seats anyway.
Right.
You know, I joined U2's fan club for $40 when they announced their Joshua Tree tour, because that's one of my favorite records. And I was like, there's nothing going to stop me from seeing these guys at face value.
Right.
And I joined the fan club, and I got amazing seats at Lincoln Financial Field, and it was a great show. And then I think I was a member for like 1 or 2 years, and then I was like, I don't think I need to go see them again. Now that the tickets are $700, I don't think I need to go see them.
Yeah, right.
You know, but Dave Matthews has an amazing fan club experience called The Warehouse that they started in, I think, 1998. He started The Warehouse, I believe, in 1998, and it was one of the first real fan clubs to give fans the ability to get the tickets a month before they go on sale to the public. So, but the way that it works now, and it's kind of like a blessing and a curse, is it's a lottery system. So you can submit as many shows as you'd like. I think you could submit up to 5, maybe 5 shows. You pick your 5 shows that you want to go to and where you want to sit and whatever. And it's like luck of the draw, so it's kind of a drag. There's people that get denied shows that they want to go to, and then you just have to try to buy them at the public on sale and hope that they get a half decent seat. I just bought tickets for their tour closer at Madison Square Garden on the 19th of November, and they were only $132 a piece, and they're the first row of the 200 section, so they're not terrible.
Right.
But I mean, what the heck, for $200 and some, like, the seats are already reselling for $550 or $600. It's crazy. And people are paying that.
Sadly, like $200 is like normal now.
Yeah.
You know, $250 around there.
Yeah. It's wild. Can you imagine like being like, yeah, I better like spend a whole mortgage payment on 2 hours of a band.
Yeah, I never could have done that at that right age where you need to see those types of shows to stay, you know, a music fan for life. Like I never would have been able to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know how kids are doing it today, if they are at all.
Yeah. So in conclusion, it is very tough to market yourself. To circle back.
Well, you guys describe yourselves as the world's most accurate Dave Matthews tribute. How does one get to claim that title? You know, what kind of work goes into that?
Yeah. So, you know, I have like a little bit of OCD in certain parts of my life, as I think most people do, you know. But what it is for me is for a tribute band, like I kind of like feel like tribute bands and cover bands are completely different.
They are.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like a cover band is 4 guys, they're playing a bunch of music and they're doing whatever. You know what I mean? Like I've heard like people have referred to us as a Dave Matthews cover band, and I'm like, oh yeah, well let me tell you something, and I don't say anything at all. I close my mouth and I walk in the other direction, but
mumbling,
you know, you know. So what it comes down to is the instruments for me, in my opinion, and you know, I kind of when I started doing the band, I had one guitar that was the iconic guitar that Dave used, the one that from that picture that you posted. Like yes. Dave used that for like 8 years straight, from 1992, 1993, right up until about 2000, and then it kind of just disappeared.
And yours is pretty well,
you know,
loved there.
Yeah, too. I bought mine in 2000, and it's in 1999. And the kid that I bought it from ended up inventing the Segway scooter.
Huh.
Yeah, which is on the team that invented the Segway scooter, rather.
Okay,
that's interesting. So I kind of, when I started the Proud Monkey thing, I was using that guitar, and I was like, well, this is accurate for full band, but it's not really accurate for what he used, you know, on acoustic shows. And I was like, all right, well, what do I do here, you know? and there's all these, you know, informational forums, and I've known his guitars for years. I used to call set lists at shows back in the day, but based on what guitar I could see him switching to, you know what I mean? Because back right around in 1999, 2000, he started switching guitars a lot on stage, adding 12 strings and baritones and things like that. So basically what I did is I just kind of, using the magic of a website called Reverb and Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, I got really into guitar speculating, where I would kind of like buy a guitar that I knew might be valuable if I could resell it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And then I would take the money that I would make on the resell and try to buy something that was more accurate for the Dave thing. So what I started doing was just kind of piece by piece buying every single exact model of guitar that he uses like currently. You know what I mean? Like on average Dave show, he switches 6 times.
Huh.
You know what I mean? And it's mostly, he has different tunings. He has some very unique tunings, and then he uses a baritone guitar. He sometimes uses an electric guitar for one song. He'll use a 12-string guitar for other songs, and then he uses this little tiny little thing called a Vayette Griffin, which is made by this guy up in Woodstock, New York, named Joseph Vayette, who was an architect who dropped out of architecture school and started making instruments. And they're these tiny little things, and they sound kind of like a mandolin. And you can only get them custom or secondhand, and they're very difficult to come by. I found one right before COVID. COVID made used instruments like turn into gold bars.
Okay.
You know, because all the major companies were kind of shut down. All Gibson, Fender, and Taylor and Martin, all their employees were gone. So the values kind of went through the roof. But right before COVID, I had started just kind of obsessively looking for the closest thing to what he was using at the time. I've probably ended up selling about 20 of them to get different colors that are the exact colors that he has. But as of right now, I think I have about 9 guitars for the Proud Monkey that I use that are like in like the same year, you know what I mean? The same exact model with the exact same inlays and whatever. and it's just like an unfortunate obsession.
An expensive obsession.
You know, I mean, like every year I file my taxes and my accountant's like, well, I was like, yeah, this one is for raised B tuning. You see, Dave Matthews uses this on 5 songs. So obviously I have to have it.
Sure.
You know, and she's like, you know, it's, but I'm done now. I'm actually done on the, I don't think there's any more of his that I can get. I think I have them all.
So you just have to hope that he does not get any more guitars.
Right.
Now
you know, like,
years.
Exactly. Like I'm such a dork that I saw them at Bethel Woods and he was playing a song called Samurai Cop in this weird Gibson Tiny Electric. And I was like, that looks like a Les Paul, but it's really small. What's that number 8 on the top? You know, and it looked like it had a number 8 on the top. And this is a Dave Matthews design. And it looked like that on the top. I was like, what the hell is that? So I look it up online. It's a Les Paul 100th anniversary edition, 100th birthday edition, Les Paul Jr. And he had put a piece of tape over everything but the 2 zeros. So it looked like an 8. Okay. And I was like, all right. So I found one on Facebook Marketplace up in Binghamton for like $200. And I went and bought it and I used it for like one show, got a video of it. And I was like, nah, I don't really like how it sells. I sold it to Rick Gillette. You know, he loves
spreading the love around now.
But I was like, all right, well, you know, maybe I have a problem. You know, maybe I have a problem.
No, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, you get there. You know, you get there. So I think I'm done. My wife will be happy to hear that. I think I'm done with the Dave guitars. I actually just got my Dave Matthews Signature Martin. I had sold it during COVID. I had sold my Dave Matthews Signature Martin and Signature Taylor during COVID.
Wow.
Because all my gigs were gone and I had to find a way to pay my kids, you know, school tuition. And
sure.
And I found one. There's only 200 and some of them out there, and Dave has 5 of them. And I found one down in Allentown, and this kid just had it, and he didn't know why he had it. And I said, "Well, I'll come down and get it. I'll give you this much." And he said, "All right, great." And now he's hiring us to play his 40th birthday party next year. So he's giving me all the money back.
Yeah, that's cool.
You know, I mean, so it's his signature Martin, and he switched from Martin right after they made the signature for him. He switched to Taylor. You know, and interestingly enough, he only uses it when he's on television. If he's on television in LA or New York, he's using his own signature Martin. He doesn't use it with the band anymore, and he uses it sometimes at benefits.
Okay.
So part of me likes to think that the 2 that he has, he leaves maybe one in New York and one in LA, and then whenever he's on TV, that's the one.
Oh, okay.
You know, that's like the inner dork. part of my gear stuff appeals to the inner male dork that likes Dave Matthews Band. You know what I mean? Because I don't know of too many girls who care about the gear. You know, like they might know when you switch to the 12-string because it's this big brown thing. You know, but I do that for the guys, and I play Crash for the girls. You know. And our drummer has an identical kit to Carter Beauford's kit. So it's
okay.
It's 100% identical. All the sizes and everything are identical. And then the snare drum he uses was made by a guy named Jeff Ochiltree, who he was John Bonham's drum tech for a very short time back in the 70s. And he's like this crazy drum manufacturer. And it's the exact same snare drum that they used on Under the Table and Dreaming and Crash and Before These Crowded Streets, which are considered the big 3 records. So it's like statistically, so that snare at the beginning of Ants Marching,
yeah,
you know, that's the drum that you're hearing is this Ochiltree Dangerous snare. So I mean, that's really the core of it. Is those 2 things are I think John Ventry uses a bass made by a guy called Mike Lull, and Stefan Lassard from Dave has used that bass as well. Our sax guy uses all the same reeds and everything, but saxes are so unique, you know. So the core of it is really that. The core of Dave Matthews is Dave and the drummer. You know what I mean? So we have all the exact same gear that they used in studio. So when you're hearing us play songs kind of like more of a studio style, you know, you're actually hearing like pretty much the exact same instruments that they used. You know what I mean? And that I think like, you know, I was doing a gig up at Montage for a beer fest, and it was an acoustic one. And they had a Dave Matthews tribute band, and this actual experience was what spurred me to really go after Proud Monkey a little harder. They had hired a tribute band, and they said it was a Dave Matthews tribute band, and I was playing in the other room, and then there was this main stage or whatever, and I went in there, and they were playing a very odd sounding style of a Dave song. You know, some people's art is hard, and some people's art's a piece of cake, and that one was hard. But I was like, whoa. And I walked back in the other room, and I had started playing Dave, and all these people came in, and they were like, yeah, like there was some other Dave tribute band in there, and it was, I don't know what it was. They played 3 Dave songs, and they started playing Tom Petty, you know? And I was like, nah. So like there's some guys out there that play Dave songs, or they call themselves Dave tributes, but they're using whatever guitar they have or whatever guitar they can afford, which, I mean, whatever, like that's it. And call yourself a cover band. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I almost feel like you should have to pass like a written test. you know, if you're going to be like a Pink Floyd tribute band, like you have to have a guy playing a black Stratocaster and a black bass, and you know, your keyboard player has to sing. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I feel like it's like almost doing a disservice to the band that you're copying by copying them incorrectly. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, it's more than just dressing up like them.
Yeah,
or,
exactly.
Capture a look. It's all about the sound.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I did buy the exact same pair of boots that Dave has. You know, when he made his first $1 million, he bought one pair of boots, and they're really nice, and he gets them resold. You know, he's had them for like 25, 30 years, you know, so I
gotta respect that.
You know, I don't wear them very often because they're pretty uncomfortable.
He must like them.
He loves them. He loves them, but he's tall. He's a tall guy. He likes big, like, cowboy boots made out of horse leather.
So do you take all of those guitars with you to all the gigs, or are you taking certain ones to the gigs?
Sometimes I take like 6.
Okay.
The most I think I've ever taken to one is 7. And that was when we were lucky enough to do the Party in the Patio in 2019. I think our first time I brought 7. I usually bring like one 6-string and then a backup, and then the other ones are all just those like ancillary instruments that like are only used for 1 or 2 songs or whatever. You know, I could fit about 9 in the car, but it just basically depends on the set. Like when we have a big show in front of a lot of people, and I want to really give them the full like experience of the catalog, you know, then I'll bring like, you know, 5 or 6 guitars, and I write those songs into the set list that only, like, we're the only band that can do them, because a lot of these other bands out there don't have the extra instruments. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And some of them have tried, and they get the knockoff versions or the secondhand versions or whatever, those instruments, and they don't really sound the same because it's, you know, a Chinese made copy guitar is not going to sound the same as a guitar made in some guy's studio in Nashville, you know. But so for some of those bigger shows, you know, where we're really spanning a lot of tunes, I'll bring out 5 or 6. And then for some, like, and it depends on the, you know, the price too. Like if somebody is having us play as our 5-piece band, which is like our bass, it's like our base model, you know what I mean? If their budget isn't crazy high, I might only bring 2 out, and we do more of an old school, like 90s type thing. You know what I mean? So we kind of like our chameleon type of band, because depending on what the budget is, or what the gig is, we're able to just really give people like a completely different, like, we've never played the same set in order. Like we've never played the same show. Obviously, like we change the show every time. So we give people like a reason to maybe come out and see us more than once, you know, a month or something like that. Because, you know, one time you come see us, you might see us play a whole record all the way through. The next time we might like be recreating a show from like 1996.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? It's pretty wild.
Do you have those types of fans that want to keep coming out and seeing?
Well, Dave does. You know, I mean, you know, before COVID, when we were able to do, you know, a few local shows quarterly, people would come out a lot, you know. It really just is a matter of budget. You know what I mean? Like it's tough for people to come out and go to a show, and you know, in some cases, like when we play at the Jazz Cafe, we're charging $15-$20 to get in, because that's how it works over there. And that's the Luzerne County venue, is the Jazz Cafe. So, you know, if we were to play across town, or even to play, sometimes we play in Scranton. If we do Wilkes-Barre and Scranton together, it doesn't really matter. Our people will come out to both. You know, I would say we probably have a pretty dedicated group of people that come out anytime we play, you know, which is really lucky for us. And we're super thankful that people love Dave that much to come and see us do it. You know, I think it has to do with the fact that they don't come around here anymore, you know, and the fans around here have nothing. Like when we're playing in Lancaster next Saturday night, and there's no venue in South Central PA. Like the closest one is Hershey, which is like, you know, 90 minutes, and they don't really do Hershey every year either. You know, they've been going to Bethel and then going straight to Philly. So like those people get abandoned. So every time we play down there, it's usually mayhem. You know, it was mayhem out there, mayhem in Lancaster.
So when you're playing these guitars and stuff, does that help you channel that type of sound or energy to recreate, you know, Dave Matthews songs? Like, voice wise, are you doing anything to try to sound like him, or are you kind of doing your own thing with your voice?
Well, you know, anytime you play somebody's song, you're naturally gonna sound like them somehow.
Sure.
If you know how to play a song, you'll get the inflections or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't try to sound like him. I think I do sound a little bit like him, but mostly I just try to do the songs justice and do them as accurately as he does them. And I don't know, I sing them, and sometimes I feel like I can hear myself trying on certain parts, and then I bring it back, and I'm like, remember, you got to be yourself a little bit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Always be yourself. You know, so like it definitely feels cool. You know what I mean? Like to like play like a really, really awesome rare ass guitar, and you know, put all that energy into trying to copy him as much as I can for the people that are there to see us. You know what I mean? But like they're just office tools. You know, they're extremely valuable office tools. You know, one of the guitars that I have is from the same run of guitars as his. So this guy Joe Vayette made 10 of these baritone 12 strings, and Tim Reynolds had one, who is the guitar player, and he showed it to Dave, and Dave was like, "Whoa, that's awesome." So he called them, and they made one for him, and they made one for Joe Perry. And so there's only 10 of them, and they're like all slightly different colors. So I have the like bluish black one.
Oh, that's cool.
I got it on consignment for $800 off some random website. You know what I mean? And I got it, and I sent it to the shop, the Vayette shop, and the guy's like, "Oh my God, that's the one we made right before Joe Perry's." And I was like, "What? What was it doing sitting in a shop in Hartford, Connecticut for $800?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
You know, and he's like, "Yeah, we made it for some guy in Boston." You know, and it just like trickled out there, and there's only 10 of them, and I have one of them. Dave has one, and the bass player has one, and Tim Reynolds has one. It's nuts. Joe Perry and Jeff Baxter from Steely Dan has one. It's kind of nuts.
Now, did I see that you opened for Tim at some point?
Yeah, I opened for Tim with Dylan Skursky, who plays bass and cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
That was 2008.
Oh wow.
You know, that was over at the Jazz Cafe, and you know, Tim is an interesting dude, man. You know, I've been to some of his solo shows going back 23 years. When I first discovered who he was, I really fell in love with the way he plays the guitar. And like I went to see him at Villanova University like 2000, and it was like a torrential downpour like yesterday, and there was this big block party that they had, and he was out there under this tent playing guitar, and I was like, the tent started to blow away, so I grabbed a hold of it, and I was just like standing there like chugging and holding this tent down, you know. And he's playing, and he looks up at me, he's like, "Thanks, man." He has this really weird voice where he kind of talks like this, and he's only 5'5", but when he talks it kind of sounds like this. You know, and he's like, "Thanks, man." You know, and everybody else, like a lot of people would go see Tim Reynolds and be like, "Play Ants Marching," you know, and he has you know, really, really crazy song titles like Kundalini Bonfire, you know, So it was that, and that was really cool. And I remember telling him that story in the green room of the Jazz Cafe, and he's like, "Oh man, I remember that rainstorm. That was really raining. Thanks, man." And we played all of our own music, and he thought it was cool. And I've seen people open for Tim and play all Dave, and I was like, no way am I gonna do that.
Yeah, right.
No way am I gonna play.
It's almost arrogant, really,
like I played a Peter Gabriel cover, but I did not play a Dave cover. That's for damn sure. And then he proceeded to go up there, and I think he had a bunny mask on, and his solo shows are absolutely amazing. They're like that freak out scene in Willy Wonka, the first one. The rowers keep on rowing. That's kind of like what a Tim Reynolds show is like.
Okay.
Is the Grizzly Reaper mowing? Certainly not showing any signs of slowing. So yeah, it's a Tim Reynolds show right there. So yeah, it was cool to open up for him, and just kind of, he had a girlfriend, I guess, that lived around here, who was from around here.
Oh, okay.
So he used to play at the Jazz quite a bit, and he's just an interesting dude to sit on a couch with.
Yeah, sounds
not a couch like this though.
No, not quite as
not one as deep and luxurious, but a couch nonetheless.
You could fall asleep.
Give me any ideas.
So, you've been doing this for how long now?
Music?
Yeah, over 20 years at this point.
Yeah, I guess, I started getting paid for it right around in 2002 on March 20th, actually. Wow. And I know that because I found pardon me while I get a little more comfortable here.
Sure. Well, take advantage, right? This lovely couch here.
Got a man spread. I found a digital videotape, one of those little mini ones, and it said Dustin's first gig, and I guess my mom had taped it. So I put it up on YouTube, and it's hilarious. I'm like wearing a button down and khakis, and it's at the Grotto, and the guy's like, "You got to plug in into this little thing." He's like, "You have to plug into this thing so it goes everywhere." And I was like, "I don't know, man." And like the PA blew up. It was weird, and then he paid me $150, and I was like, "Wait a minute. I just made $150 for 3 hours of work."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I had my old Sony Ericsson black phone, and I'm like, got my calculator on it. I was like, wait, that's like 3 days of work. Oh my God. So I started really getting into it, and I had just moved up to Scranton at that time. And thank God for, all I could say is thank God for Brian Craig of the Bog, the late Brian Craig, who was the first bar owner to believe in me and give me a chance at playing my own music. And that's really what got me interested in playing music, was just writing stupid songs about bartenders that I was in love with or whatever, and Brian was like, "Oh, dude, it's great. Why don't you come in here open for Town Hall next week? I'll give you $40." It's like, yeah, yes. And I would go over there, and he would have me open up for people. I'd go and do the open mic with Charles Avira, and Charles was like, here, everybody's hero up there, because he had this killer jam band called Freight Train, and they were like the only jam band around here, at the time, and they were just awesome. And he just like those guys just would pump you up, man. Like, even if you sounded terrible, they'd be like, "That was awesome. Can't believe how good that was," and it that's like a huge part of it. It's the self-confidence. You know what I mean? I feel like there's a lot of if you're, it's like that meme I see it where it's like if the guitar, if there's another guy in the corner while you're playing guitar looking at you like this, that means that you're awesome.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of that around, but like there's like a really tight brotherhood, I think, because we all have to use each other in our own bands anyway.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So I've been at it, I guess about 20 years this past March now, and I really just put my nose down and just grinded up there in Scranton. I just played every bar that I could, as much as I could. I used to play this crazy bar called Corkscrews.
Oh yeah.
I think it's called Honey Childs right now.
Yes.
And I play this crazy bar called Corkscrews like twice a week. And the owner Ernie would he'd be like, "I can only afford $100. Like twice a week, I'll give you $200." It's like, great. you know, because I was working a day job and I was like, no such thing as extra money, man.
Right.
You know, my grandfather always said there's no such thing as extra money. You know, so I just started grinding it. And then right around 2006 or so, I used to work for Lens Crafters for like 6 years. And I had accrued 5 weeks of paid vacation. And my plan was on my birthday was to take 4 weeks and travel Europe and get paid.
Oh, that's cool.
All time.
Yeah.
And then they changed the policy 2 weeks before my 5-year anniversary, where you could earn up to 5 weeks, but only if you like hit certain benchmarks and you never missed time and you were not more than 5 minutes late ever and yada yada. And I was like, this is bullshit. So I had a condo in this building that my friends had gotten me into, and I sold it right before the 2008 crash, you know, and I made a really decent amount of money. And I said, I better just start playing music all the time now. You know what I mean? Like, I'll just start playing music all the time and that'll be that, you know? And so I just, right around 2006, I just kind of gave up the whole work all day at a job that I hate thing, you know, and just started hustling as much as I can at the gigs. And like, I was terrible. I had no idea what I was doing back then. I was just like, people were calling me and they'd say, do you want to come and play? I'd say, yes, I do. You know, and then it's just like that, just steamrolls, and you just get the real key is just keeping the same phone number. You know, that's the key to gigs. Keep the same phone number since you're 18. You know?
Well, you know, when I was reading about the band and stuff, you know, one of the things that I saw was you had post that first gig, the first paid gig, I think, of the video stuff. And you said right in the description that you were terrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, most people would try to bury that sort of thing and delete it from the internet and, you know, hope it never comes back to haunt them. What makes you to kind of do the opposite?
I guess because I have this wonderful ability to not give a shit what anybody thinks about me at all.
That is a rare ability.
Yeah.
Especially these days.
Because if you do, great. If you don't, great. Enjoy it. I don't care. I just thought it was random to find it. And I thought it would be cool to just put it up just so that like 20 years from now, my kids could be like, oh my God, look at dad. You know?
Yeah.
That was 2002. That was 38 years ago or whatever. You know? And I actually posted my first ever public performance as well, which was from my school's like end of year outdoor like talent show. And it was the Dave song number 41 that I mentioned before. And because it was the first song I got into the band, and I didn't know how to play guitar. So my friend Mike played rhythm guitar, and then my friend Neil played electric guitar. And for the longest time, I mean, I couldn't find the video. It was in my parents' house, and I found it about, I don't know, a year ago, and I just converted it and I threw it right up there, and I was like watching. I was like, oh my God. And I think my friend Alexis was videoing at the time, and she was really far away. She tried to zoom in.
Yeah. So
it was these like, grainy, you know, like, it's just like, you know, and my voice was so terrible. It was so terrible. I had absolutely no concept of melody at all, you know, and I had known how to sing, but it was mostly just singing like weird like choir shit from church and from school. So it was really like embarrassing to watch it by myself. And then I was just like, yeah, let's see if anybody put it up there. You know what I mean? Because I don't care. If you think I suck at Dave Matthews, great. If you think I'm great at it, great. You know, I don't care.
Well, I mean, you've played over 4,000 live performances at this point,
as far as I can tell. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, there was a time in 2007 where I gigged 78 days straight at one point.
Jeez.
And I was like, ugh, you know. But that's what we had to do. You know what I mean? And the gigs were available. Now they're not available. I don't know what happened in between 2007 and 2009 locally. I don't know whether it was the market crash or whether there was like extenuating circumstances that completely like demolished the local music scene.
Yeah.
For about 10 years. but yeah, right up until then, I was doing. I mean, there was 2006. I used to be able to keep track of them on MySpace till freaking Justin Timberlake bought it. But I think I did like 368 gigs in 2006 or something, because I was working every night, and then there was some days you'd have doubles and some days you'd have triples. It was great. I wish it would come back now that I have children that I have to feed, daily. I would love to play 3 gigs on a Sunday.
I was going to say, what keeps you motivated to keep doing that? But I guess maybe the bills are part of that. But,
I'll tell you what, my oldest son eats a lot of granola bars.
It was really just you would play for granola bars if you could.
I mean, if I could just get a sponsorship with Kodiak, I guess I would consider it. At this point, So yeah, I mean, that's like I'm trying to. I never got to finish my first record. I recorded a record with AJ Jump and Dylan Skursky and Johnny Novakovic up at this crazy studio in New York called the Clubhouse. And my friend's uncle was the owner, and he had produced the first Rusted Root record and Natalie Merchant Tiger Lily, which I believe he won a Grammy for. And it's this crazy studio up in New York, and we recorded 5 songs, and then I found out I was going to be a dad, and I was like, oh man, like I'd sold out a club in New York called Chennai, which is where Jeff Buckley recorded that famous live record called Live at Chennai. And we'd sold it out, and I got like $82. And I was like, well, this sucks. I'd rather like play Jimmy Eat World for $280 in Sea Isle instead, So I kind of like completely shifted focus and switched into the cover thing, just because I ended up having another kid right after that, daughter. And now I'm kind of coming around to the point where I'm like finally at a point in my life where I can compartmentalize the projects properly, so I can kind of get back into focusing on originals, because that's how I got my start, which is playing original music. So I'm hoping to get back into that, and hopefully there's a venue that locally will cater towards original music that you can actually get people to come to and make money at.
Right. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Absolutely.
There might be someone coming down the pike next summer, but
okay.
Locally, I think I've heard some rumors of a pretty cool venue that's going to be doing just that right around the corner. So let's hope those rumors are true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, there's some good stuff at Carl Hall, so I mean that's a nice place.
Yeah, Carl Hall's great. AJ's place is great. It's I think he's limited on space.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. I haven't gotten a chance to get in there yet, but from what I've seen on the live streams, it's fantastic. If the Jazz Cafe used to be open a lot more and used to cater towards a lot of original music, and now they're only open when there's shows. So there's really nothing in between, because I think Carl Hall holds what 100.
Yeah, about 100 some. Yeah.
And the Jazz Cafe holds about 320 uncomfortably. So there's hopefully there's something in the middle that's like, where because the real problem is bands need to gain a following. Dave got their start because they played every Tuesday at this college club. And the place could hold 300 people, 300, 400 people, and UVA was a huge college. So they started packing the place, and they were playing their own music,
right?
And I actually played a gig last summer at a guy's house down in New Hope, and he went to UVA, and he used to go see Dave every Tuesday. And it was for his wife's surprise party, and they met at a Dave show on Tuesday night in 1992. And I'm like, every Dave, like he told me this, and I'm like,
yeah,
every Dave head's dream is like being able to go back to the 90s when Dave used to get really high, and they would play 3 3 sets like of all the original music from back the beginning, And he goes, yeah, we could have had him play our wedding in 1994, but it was like half our budget. They wanted 10 grand, and then the next year I had to go see him at the Starland Ballroom, and, I had to call him and ask him for tickets. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? He's like, well, I called, Dave, and I asked him for tickets, and he gave me some tickets. I was like, who are you? Who are you? And how did you find me? And why am I in your standing next to your hot tub singing Gray Street for your wife right now? So they got their start because people, it was like everybody knew Tuesday tracks, Dave Matthews Band.
Right.
You're going to go see a good band. There's going to be a bunch of girls there. And he's like, the guy was like, the Miller Lights were the coldest Miller Lights in town, man. I'll tell you what, he's like, you never had a cold Miller Light until you had one from Tracks.
Paint a beautiful picture there.
Yeah. So I think like, it seems like Mayor Brown is really focused on improving the Wilkes-Barre experience for people. And I kind of like, I hope that results in like a permanent band shell on the square. I think that would be a huge bonus.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
For Wilkes-Barre and the county in general. I mean, the downtown area in general. You know what I mean? Like we've played shows in other cities that have them, and it's a phenomenal time. You have a bunch of people who are there to see good music or what they think is good music, and there's no trouble and everybody has a good time. I think it would be a great addition. And I know that there's been some chatter about it. So hopefully that happens.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, it'd be great. Rather than like having to haul that band shell in there and stuff, just having like a permanent like stone structure somehow would be absolutely awesome.
What have been some of your favorite venues that you've played, and maybe some of the best shows that you've played? Sometimes those are related, sometimes they're not. But
yeah, I guess as Proud Monkey or in general. Or,
in general, really. But,
I mean, probably one of my favorite shows that we played was when we did PNC Field in 2019. They just that summer they had this thought of having some shows up there, and I think they only ended up doing 2. But the first one that we did, there was no game. It was just like an open stadium. We played in right field, kind of facing up at where the pavilion is, where all the drinks are, like the main bar area in the back there,
Yeah.
And we played up at people. I think we sold about 800 or 900 tickets to that.
Wow.
And the show was great. It was like, I think we did it as a 7-piece or a 6-piece, but it was a fantastic show. The set was great. Our violinist took off during Ants Marching. It's one of the funniest things I ever saw. Mark, what he had? He jumped off the stage and he made sure to skip over the lines, the chalk lines, because the groundskeeper was like, he's like, I don't care what you fucking guys do out here. Don't you fucking step on my fucking chalk lines. And I'm like,
okay,
you got it.
Yeah.
So he did this like little hop over the lines. He ran all the way like out to left field and then ran all the way back playing the violin. And I swear to God, I never laughed so hard. I'm trying to play the chords and I'm just dying. I'm dying. That was like one of my favorite shows that we did with Proud Monkey because it was just a blast. But one of my favorite shows I think I ever did of my whole career was playing bass for the Collective at a place in Philly called Grape Street Pub. And it was an all original show. And the weird thing about that was my buddy Neil Nicastro had written a lot of those songs and had left the band like years prior.
Okay.
And there were these great original tunes with these great grooves and these great lyrics. And Kermit is like one of the best showmen like that you could ever find. Kermit Alfonso. I don't know if you know who he is.
Yeah, I've seen him.
Like nobody puts on a show like Kermit. And we played all these original songs and the groove was awesome. And we had a great time. And then I look over to the left of me and who's standing there? Charles Barkley. And I was like, he's like, yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. And he walks away and I was like, what the hell was that? And that was one of my favorites just because that room was really awesome. And like, I don't think it exists anymore. And I like looked at him and I was like, I saw you play Jordan in 93. It was my only NBA game. It was Barkley versus Jordan. It was awesome. So yeah, it's weird, man. They all blend together. You know what I mean? A lot of shows blend together after a while. We did a show at the Jazz Cafe that was like 4 hours straight. That was really, really awesome. And we played like 28 songs and people we kept trying to stop and the energy was so heavy, that we just kept going, and I was dying. I was like soaked, You know, I was like, oh, I was like, I'd eaten too many lentils or something that day or whatever. But, you know, the energy around here from people who love music is really tangible. When you're doing something that people are into, you can really feel it. You know? It was like that at Tellus 360 the first time we played there down in Lancaster too. That we sold that room out the first night we played there, and we had played the arena the night before, the Mohegan Arena.
Oh yeah,
during the hockey game, and that
right
was
before,
wild.
Right before COVID.
It was right before COVID. We had 38 shows booked that year. I was stoked. We played the arena. It was weird. Something was weird with the sound in there. They like messed up the delay of the sound, so they had hooked us up to the main system, and then we also had like an onstage system. And messed up the delay by like, and so the snare drum would go like. So instead of the snare sounding like this, it would go.
Oh wow! That's
so everything
weird.
was like triplets,
like a little echo sort of.
Yeah,
thing.
Everything was triplets. Man. It was weird, you know. And that show was really awesome. And then we went and played Tellus, and there was like 400 people, and like we only played 2 hours down there. Like they get you in and out, and then they put a DJ on stage. And like the energy coming out of there, like you could feel it coming at you, like sun rays. You know, you don't get that too often.
Right.
You know, you don't get a good connection sometimes if you're too far away or whatever like that. You know.
Right. I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's Tellus is probably one of my favorite venues just because it's a big, giant, like 400-something person, just square room.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things. I've seen some great videos from there, but I've never been there personally.
Yeah, it's a good time down there. It's a good time. Lancaster's worth the ride. It's a funky little spot.
Well, what do you have coming up?
We have North Slope on Friday, and that's acoustic, and that's with Johnny Novakovic of he used to be in a band called Stony Creek, but he's in a band called Cold right now. And then he's got another original project called Death Valley Dreams. He's one of the best songwriters around here. He's just an absolute maniac. He's like Billy Corgan. Johnny could like write 52 songs in a day, and like 51 of them would be hits for anybody.
Okay,
you know. And then next week we have Tellus 360. In Lancaster we have River Grill on Veterans Day. We have the V Spot.
Oh, V Spot.
December the 16th.
Okay.
And that'll be interesting. Because that's a pretty tight spot and people get really nuts in there. Vinny runs a great spot up there, man. That place is nuts. And then we have the Jazz Cafe on the same day of the Badleys release.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to try to come up with, because we booked that Jazz Cafe gig like 3 years ago. You know, I booked the good dates all the way out in advance, you know.
Yeah.
And then my violinist was like, oh crap, I have to play with the Badleys that night. And I'm like, blah, blah. All right, we'll start when you get there then. So we're going to try to come up with, I think we're going to do like maybe a time capsule type thing where we do like all the different eras of the band and like the Dave and Friends era. He only put out one solo record and it's killer. It's fantastic. It's Tim Reynolds, Trey Anastasio. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He only did one tour with it and it was awesome. So we're going to do something like that and just kind of give people a whole career spanning.
Oh, that's cool.
Type situation, you know, until he gets over there from the Kirby Center. He's done it a couple times. He's a busy guy. Like Ben Wake. When you're the best violinist, like in the state, you're probably the busiest violinist in the state, you know? So he's going to play over there with them and then come over and play with us till the end of the night.
So you really get to exercise your Dave Matthews Band nerdum with this stuff, with putting together these sets.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and it's kind of crazy. I never thought it would happen, but I find myself rarely listening to the music anymore because I play it so much.
Right.
You know, because I practice it, and when you practice it, like, why would I need to listen to it? You know what I mean? Like,
right. You've just heard it 30, 40
I've just
times,
played the exact
times.
same song twice in 2 different keys just so that I know how to do it in case my string breaks. I don't think I need to listen to it on the way to get my kids from school.
Right.
Just keep going back to stinking Steely Dan, man.
So as a fellow nerd, when somebody says like, I don't really like Dave Matthews, I don't get that. What is your reaction to that? I know, like as a like a Star Wars fan, for example, be like, but did you watch them in the right order? And did you watch it this way first? And did you see the ones without the extra special effects? I have the the special version they put out on DVD a few years ago. It's on the second disc. It's the Laserdisc transfer. It's way better. Watch it that way. That sort of thing. You try and like, pull them back. Like, no, you can't say Star Wars is bad. Here, let me tell you why it's good.
Yeah.
Are you kind of the same way about Dave Matthews? Or are you kind of like, you know what? Fine.
I think
good for you. Whatever.
I think I probably used to be when I was in the beginning, just because like if I knew somebody liked music and they didn't like Dave Matthews Band, I'm like, well, here's why.
Yeah.
You might want to like them. Here's why I might want to change your opinion about something.
Yeah.
And sometimes people will be into it. If you know the person enough to know what first song to make them listen to, see if they can get into it. But for the most part, I mean, what are you gonna do? You know what I mean? Like, people don't like it, they don't like it. I can't tell you how many shows we played where, you got 59 girls going, your boyfriend's like,
right.
This fucking sucks. This is not Tool. This is not fucking Tool. This is not. I'm not spiraling right now. Like, and that's it. So when I see that, I try to play something a little heavier, or I'll sneak something in that I think a scowling man will like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think when you're younger, when you're 20, or 19 or whatever, you're like, you want everybody to like what you like. You know what I mean? And still to this day, like I don't like eating a lot of sugar, and I don't do it. So I try to tell my family members, don't eat too much sugar. And they're like, oh yeah. What are you going to do? You know what I mean? You can't change people's minds sometimes,
Yeah.
And I mean, I think I'm more like that with Star Wars and Marvel than I am with bands. You know what I mean?
Well, it's probably easier to convert them there than it is to
yeah.
convert them to a band.
Yeah. It's funny. I mean, if people don't like it, they don't like it. You know what I mean? What are you going to do? Sometimes, I mean, what Alec Guinness, he thought Star Wars New Hope was the biggest like crock of baloney he ever had been in his life. I don't understand the characters. I don't understand where this is going, and he's like iconic now because of that role.
Right. And he did enjoy that little percentage that he got there.
Yeah.
Of the gross and everything that he agreed to be
like,
in the movie. I think it was like 2% or something of like the gross or whatever. And when they were talking about it originally, he tells the story so well, I wouldn't be able to do it justice, but look it up. It's floating on YouTube of him talking about that and not really, getting the whole hype of it and whatever. Yeah. But hey, glad it's successful. That sort of thing.
Space lasers and some mystical invisible force. I don't know. It's like what Michael Caine said. He's like, I never saw Jaws 3, but I saw the house it built and it was fantastic.
Right. Exactly. And he's something about like
that. He was in Jaws 3.
He agreed to get like 2.5% or whatever, and then they were like, he's like, yeah. So about that money, and they're like, oh, that 2%. Wait, what happened to the half?
You had
there?
said 20.
They kept trying to renegotiate that a little bit. Like,
don't make me use
now that we know this thing is huge. Well, I mean, to be fair, if he saw an earlier cut, then I mean, that movie was saved in the edit. So
yeah.
But what's any goals for the band going forward? Anything that you want to accomplish yet? That you want to do as a musician in general? You want to put out your solo stuff, of course, but
yeah. I mean, I'm trying to close the book on all like my old timey songs from when I was a kid and had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird because I feel like original music is like, they're like your children.
Yeah.
And like I'm like so happily jealous of all my friends that are just able to churn out material.
Yeah.
And all of it's solid, all of it's great. Dustin Douglas, phenomenal guitar player. He's putting out like,
oh yeah,
like world class blues, and
he makes it look effortless.
Yeah, it's wild. Like Cabinet, like probably like one of the coolest like newgrass bands in the circuit. Like, and they still have, they're still, ascending. I think what my goal for Proud Monkey is just to keep it going as long as I can. I mean, I have to do it for another 16 years at least until my youngest graduates college. So I if I can keep grinding Proud Monkey as hard as I can and just giving people the best show that they can. It's kind of tough because we get passed over for gigs because we're not as available as guys who only, are in one band or whatever. Like we just lost a great gig that I've been trying to get into a venue in Harrisburg called XL Live 3 years.
Oh yeah. I've heard good things about that venue too.
It's a huge venue and everything's great. We were trying to get in with them and they gave it to this out of state Dave Matthews tribute band from upstate New York. And they're all right. They're like a vanilla milkshake, like Proud Monkey is like a chocolate peanut butter cup milkshake with Oreo cookies. And some bands are like vanilla milkshakes from Dairy Queen. You know what I mean? Like it happens. I mean, whatever, good for them. You get a little salty because you live an hour away and you want to play at a place and it's like one of the only places you can play, but whatever, so I'm hoping that we can just kind of get bulletproof. But the real problem with Proud Monkey is that all my guys are so ensconced in their other projects and working 5 to 6 to 7 gigs a week because it's paying their bills. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's just something that I have to live with. So what I'm doing is trying to create several other projects that I can kind of put under the umbrella of Proud Monkey and kind of just say like Proud Monkey presents. Okay. You know what I mean? I'm working on a Pink Floyd tribute right now with my drummer from Proud Monkey, and then my friend Andy who plays guitar with Leanne and company, and then my keyboard player from Proud Monkey, and then this other keyboard player who sings. And we did our first show at a party, and it was awesome. And I'm actually playing bass in it, so it's pretty cool. It's a little bit more challenging. So that I have going on for next spring. And then I have a Police tribute that I've been kind of developing for 4 years. We were supposed to have our first show right at the beginning of COVID. It's going to be a split night with John Smith's U2 tribute called Mullen, and they're like better than U2, phenomenal. Nice. John Smith, Mark Heisinger, Pat Flynn, and then these 2 dudes from New York, and they're amazing. And it's me and Chad Saliga and then Pat Flynn, and we were going to do it, and then COVID happened. And that's covering like a lot of Sting stuff and a lot of Police stuff. So that's like there. It's like one of these things where we're just on the ground floor and we're still taking baby steps. Yeah. Like that kind of music is a lot more challenging than Dave for me personally. So it's like tough to get on the level of the guys I'm playing with because everybody I play with is usually echelons better than me, leagues ahead of me, So I'm just like kind of like playing catch up and with them. And I've been trying to develop a Pearl Jam tribute for like the last 4 or 5 years. And we've done a few shows. It's called Brain of Jay. We've done a few shows at River Grill Acoustic, and they were pretty well received. We do a bunch of old school Pearl Jam mostly. Nice. And I play guitar and sing in that, which Eddie Vedder doesn't really play guitar in a lot of the stuff because I can play guitar as competently rhythmically as Stone Gossard somewhat. So it kind of adds a little bit of a dimension to that. So I'm kind of, and it's mostly the same guys, but it's kind of like different price points and different availability and things like that. So I have that going on, and then I'm just still doing the pickup thing whenever I can. I do a lot of country clubs, a lot of country clubs. We're doing a one called Glen Oak in a couple of weeks up in Clark Summit. It's a fantastic club. Our friend Scott Schoenberg, he's the president of it this year, and he's a huge Dave Matthews super fan. He's seen him 350 sometimes. He owns a fantastic advertising company called Bruselli Advertising, and a lot of our original merch was from him and then transferred down here to special guest. And he got us in there, and everybody there loves Dave Matthews. Like half the people our members love Dave Matthews. Yeah. So we go and we do these shows for them, and that's really been our bread and butter is private parties. Okay. Like we lost that gig in Harrisburg because our ticket sales, we don't do too many ticketed shows. We do a lot of shows where people are just like, you charge X amount of dollars, here it is, play for these 800 people and go home. Mm-hmm. But we've been really successful at private parties because what I noticed began during COVID, people could not go to their bars. They could not go to their large events. So they started bringing the events to their backyard.
Oh, okay.
And everybody would throw in on it, or sometimes the homeowner has money or whatever and can hire a band. But, you know, we did a couple crowdfunded shows at our friend's house. Our friend Tim and his wife Jen own a really cool CBD store called Your CBD Store out on 118, and they live right down the street. So they were like, we want to have a party. You know, can you get Proud Monkey to come? I was like, yeah, get us some money and make something happen. You know, it's like a paid rehearsal for 25 people or whatever. So everybody throws in. We ended up making some decent money, and we put on a backyard party for people, and they all just kind of threw in. It was like buying tickets, and is super intimate, and it still works out for everybody. So, like, that's hopefully Proud Monkey can kind of keep like, our goal is to just play theaters once a week in different areas or whatever, or big venues. But there's the lack of venues is tough. We played at Penn's Peak. We sold it out 3 times under the COVID restrictions. We've been trying to get back in there. And we got tumbleweeds.
That's crazy.
It's tough. You know, you help people during hard times, and you hope that they remember that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I didn't necessarily like, I love the opportunity of playing at Penn's Peak. And, you know, I was like, oh, I have to get split 40% of my money with you guys. All right, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, thanks for having us.
Right.
And then they booked us a couple more times because it was successful. Those shows sold out. And then we've been trying to get back in there, and oh, well, you know, I don't know. Well, I don't know. You could help us when we needed it, but when you need help, well, I don't know about it.
Yeah. There's so much of that.
We got to have a little bit of like equal give and take. There's got to be one hand washing the other. You know what I mean? Like, the local venues that have the ability to pay local bands that are quality need to spread it around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, Party on the Patio this past year, we played 2 years in a row, and, you know, we didn't get asked to do it this year, and that's fine. I mean, not everybody likes Dave Matthews, except for, I guess $2.8 billion worth of people like Dave Matthews over the last 20 years, but maybe not in NEPA. You know, maybe we got to see 3 different foreigner tributes. But, you know, there's like world-class local tribute bands, and none of them, I think only one of them was able to do it. The Philadelphia Freedom Band was able to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and you have probably 5 or 6 local tributes that are on par with anybody that you're going to overpay to come in there. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I guess that's pretty much the biggest local show that we have that's not a national touring act or whatever. So, like, I feel like that kind of should be more for the local tribute acts, and not for like some random band from Wisconsin who's on tour or something, like, that doesn't know anybody in the area. You know what I mean? Like, and isn't a taxpayer whose taxes didn't go down. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the venues that have the ability to provide some stability to local acts need to step up a little bit more and do it. You know what I mean? Just because it will help the local acts, and it'll help the venues.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like,
well, if I know people that I grew up with, or people that I'm friends with or whatever are playing, I'm going to go to that show, as opposed to some guys from out of state that I have no idea who they are.
Exactly. And it's kind of like short-sighted to be like, oh, well, this band has more Facebook likes, so that obviously must mean that they're higher quality, or they have a better following.
Right.
And it's like, well, you know, if a band is from Illinois and they have 12,000 Facebook likes, that doesn't mean shit for coming to NEPA.
Right, exactly. Most of those people are probably in Illinois.
So, and they're probably overcharging you like crazy because they're traveling.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of like, you're like, you have a world-class U2 tribute band that's based in Duryea or wherever they're based out of. You could hire them instead of, you know, some Fleetwood Mac tribute made up of senior citizens from Connecticut.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you could spread that into a local band that would draw, like the Taxmen. The Taxmen totally should have been up at Party on the Patio this year. They're a freaking spot on Beatles tribute.
Yep.
Who doesn't like the Beatles? That, or at least that will admit that they don't like them, you know? you know, we gotta like there's got to just be some more support. Like I feel like from the venues around here for the bands that are working to get people out. You know what I mean? Like, because without the bands, I mean, people go to bars, like dive bars and stuff, and they sit and they drink and they do the thing. But like for the most part, like once people are up and moving, they spend more money. You know what I mean? Like if you're sweating, you're gonna get thirsty, and if you get thirsty, you're gonna get hungry. You know what I mean? If you're sitting at a dive bar watching a football game, you know, consuming beer after beer after beer after beer, whatever, like of Miller Lights or whatever, you're not like bringing people in there to like, hey, come on down and meet me at the dive bar. We'll sit here and like grumble and like watch football on TV and complain about the price of gas and Brandon.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, this is Brandon, this is White Open Motors. You know, like you got to give them something for if you're going to serve them stuff at a 300% markup. You know what I mean? Like at least have a guy in the corner singing Wonderwall.
Exactly.
You know?
That's fair.
Yeah.
Now you were signed with special guests.
Yeah.
So you know we want to shout them out quick.
Love.
Have they helped you? Maybe fill in some of those gaps or get some of those gigs or find you some places that maybe.
Oh yeah, I mean they've gotten us. I love Chris and Robin, and our kids go to school together, and you know they're tremendous people, and they've really helped out. They've helped out with the merch tremendously.
Yeah, that's
huge. Like I feel like that. Like if more artists knew that this was a thing, that would be the thing. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Oh, you mean you'll do the merch and that'll be it. I won't have to like I used to have to buy my merch and then try to sell it myself. And now I have the lovely and talented John Fry.
Yeah.
You know, and they've definitely got me into some spots that I wouldn't have been able to get in otherwise. So it's cool. You know, I mean, I try to funnel I funnel stuff to them through my contacts. I've been doing it a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
I'll funnel contacts over to them when I know that I think that'll work out, you know. So yeah, special guests has been great. I feel like if more venues and bar owners and restaurant owners knew about it locally or even in general, I feel like it would blow up even more so than it has, you know.
Well, that's all I've got. Is there anything else you want to add before we get on air?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, just support your live music. Go see your live musicians. If you have a place near you that has somebody playing music, go over there and watch them play.
Absolutely.
You know, like it. And if you're thinking about doing it yourself, do it. Go to open mics. You know what I mean? You never know.
Go to the NEPA Scene open mic.
Absolutely.
Tuesday nights at the
Tuesday
V-Spot.
nights. I wish I lived closer to the V-Spot, or I would go there.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We just last night too was one of those nights where we had like 20 different acts on on and off stage in a 4 to 5 hour period, and everybody was getting along great. And a lot of the performances were so good, and the energy and the people feeding off each other. It was just great. You know, like it's those times where you're like, oh yeah, the music scene is alive and well.
Absolutely.
Like it feels good.
That's what the Bog open mic was when it was run. Like Charles ran it for like 5 years, and you felt like you were in your New York City.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everybody that went up there was great, except for this one guy. He sucked.
Well, there's always that one guy.
Yeah.
You know,
he sucked, and but he sucks for a lot of other reasons. I don't want to say anything about it, but yeah. I'm just kidding. But there was like just like a really cool feel, you know what I mean? Like, and open mics can be a blessing and a curse. You know what I mean? You have somebody hosting it or whatever. And I used to host one for my friend until she figured out how to host it herself. I'd help her with it. But like, you know, sometimes you get somebody who's terrible, and I've watched people get up and leave, and it sucks. And you're like, guys, no, you came here, you're here.
Right.
It'll be over. Somebody else will go on. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know, like that's how it happens. That's how it starts.
Well, see, I like as a host, it's great because I don't play any kind of music, so you don't have to listen to my stuff to get to the other people. Whereas, like a lot of those open mics, I've noticed that where like if there's somebody who's like it's my show. I'm making it about me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and you guys get to play too.
Yeah.
And then
tough.
so they open it, and then they're playing like they're okay. We've seen a couple of you guys. Now back to me again. It's all about me again.
Oh man,
oh god, that's the worst. That's the worst.
Yeah, so that's like the opposite of what an open mic is supposed to be.
Yeah, I'm there to help and promote people and get them out there and stuff, and I'm not doing any of that shit. So
yeah, it's tough, man. I mean, we there used to be a fantastic open mic vibe at the Jazz, and it was like hosted by Clarence Spady and Pat Marcinko.
Yeah,
and it was cool. And they stopped doing it, and then they brought it back. And then this one guy used to come out, and I think he was like being like satirical. But he would go up and he would sing in this really weird voice like this.
Oh man.
And all of his songs were these like nonsensical just smatterings of blurf.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he'd just be like, he'd be like, oh, my wife doesn't love me. And that's how his songs would go. And we'd all be like, what the fuck, bro? You know, and he'd play his whole 15 minutes, and every single song had this like, and you're like, oh man. And he started going around to every single open mic, and every time he'd go up, people would start getting up and leaving. And then the place would shut down the open mic. And you're like, all right, bro, like I get it. Like, is this your point? Are you trying to shut down the open mic?
Right.
Is this what you actually sound like?
Yeah.
There's no way that's like your actual singing voice. You're like totally being a character.
Right.
You know? And he would play this 12-string guitar that only had 6 strings on it. It was just so bizarre. And it went on for like 2 years. And then finally, one of the places banned him. And then like open mics kind of died around here. There aren't really any.
There's very few.
Like in Luzerne County, there's like none.
Yeah, you know, when I first started the NEPA Scene open mic, I started at the Woodlands.
Yeah,
and we were doing really well.
Yeah, in the stream side.
They're a little like when you go in the front there and then down the stairs, there's kind of a little bar that has a small stage on it.
Yeah,
kind of like a little alcove sort of thing.
Yeah,
and we were doing it there just when I had first started the site. So like, you know, we weren't really anybody yet. I was just trying to get the name out there.
Yeah.
So we did it for free for like, 12, 14 weeks or something like that. And we did really well. We got great turnouts. And then we did like a showcase show where we had a bunch of people play, basically the best of the best from the open mic. And do a local show. We had 100 people pay $10 at the door see local artists, and it was great. It went really, really well. And
naturally, they canceled it, right?
So immediately I was like, well, this is proof. And this was after they told me, don't do that because you need someone national. Like you need somebody who's known from out of the area to come in to support. And I said, well, if we're doing a local showcase, and when we have somebody in from out of the area, that's a slap in the face to them that like that person's headlining and they're like underneath them. Like that defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do here.
Oh my God.
So we proved them wrong. We did this big show. It turned out really great. We sold, made a few bucks, especially starting this thing out. I wasn't sure if any of this stuff was going to succeed.
Yeah.
And so then I met with them after and was like, hey, we should, you can maybe pay me a little bit now, like to do these gigs. Like now that we've proven that we can get people to pay,
right?
Maybe you could still, you could pay me a little bit to do. Oh no, we're not going to pay you. I mean, you can keep bringing people here. That's great.
You can keep coming here for free.
Yeah, please keep doing it for free. But no, we're not going to pay you to do that.
Yeah.
And so that was the end of that.
I can't tell you. I mean, we get a lot of messages to do benefits, and I love doing benefits for friends, and we get so many messages like, we're doing a fundraiser for our kids' football team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh,
right.
You're letting your 8-year-old play football? Great. How about you do a fundraiser for his freaking brain when he's 23 years old instead? You know what I mean? But like if it's a benefit that's like, if it's legit, then, then we do it. But for the most part, sometimes I'll just like, be like, what do you do for a living? Like, oh, you work in a restaurant? Well, I'll just come there and you'll feed me and then I'll leave.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Well, it's great advertising for their food.
Yeah.
Because you ate it.
You'll get
you might tell a friend
bucks.
about it. Yeah.
You'll get exposure bucks later.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning, I'll re-expose it.
Yeah, you can you post on Facebook. Yeah. It was a good meal.
It was a great meal. They don't charge for their food.
Right.
It's crazy. I mean, like I've had people say like, hey, listen, like I'm doing a party at my house.
Yeah.
I'm doing a party at my house for my daughter's 18th birthday. Can you come and play? What do you charge? I'm like, oh, X amount of dollars. Well, that's too much. Can you do it for less? I'm like, and then I'll look up their house on my real estate app. Be like, oh, their house is assessed $580,000. And then I'll be like, well, what do you do for a living? Oh, you sell cars? I will take a free Mustang for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Or I'll buy your Mustang from you for $18,000 less. And they're like, well, I wouldn't do that. It's like, oh, no shit. Really?
Right.
You mean other human beings, their time is valuable? Well, you should love playing. I can't tell you how many times I used to hear in the beginning, our budget's only $50.
Yeah.
You should love playing.
My God.
You should love playing. Don't you do it for the love of it?
Yeah.
Yes.
I do.
I also like to eat food and not die.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's funny, man. People just they take you for what sometimes they take you for what they can get you for, and then they're just like, oh, okay, well, thanks for the great success over the last 15 weeks, and good luck.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Blows your mind, doesn't it?
you gotta find places that care, and some places care. Some places don't.
Right.
You're just like another person walking in there. Like Heather at the Jazz Cafe, she cares. Mm-hmm. She's the best. You walk in there, she makes you feel welcomed. You're not like, it's not like, can't pay these guys $1,200 at the end of the night. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I always get paid up front, like James Brown, man. Like I like
another good piece of advice right there.
For the every chance I get, at least private parties, especially. One of the first ones I ever did, the guy got so drunk that he thought that I should just play another 2 hours. I was like, well, bro, I gotta leave. I got another gig to go to, bro. And he's like, well, the last guy did it. And I was like, cool, man. Like, I was here from 5 to 8, and now I have to leave and go play someplace from 9 to 12.
Yeah.
And he stopped the check that he gave me. He's like, all right, well, whatever. I left, and I went to deposit the check, and they were like, it stopped.
Oh, wow.
So he totally like stiffed me on a 3-hour gig.
That's wow.
And he was hammered. So every time I do a gig, I'm like, hey, if you're a drinker, you can just go ahead and pay me at exactly the time that I get.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that way, later on when you're drunk, you won't give me any less, and you won't give me any extra, or you might give me extra. Yeah. Yeah, it's wild, man. The whole gig life is wild, man. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody unless you can handle it.
Well, hopefully the people at home will listen to that, and then they won't feel as bad about paying a cover, because boy, oh boy, that $5 cover that's been the same $5 for 30 years at this point, probably more.
Yeah.
That needs to change, and people need to start not accepting that it's $10, $15, whatever it is.
Right.
Like, fucking pay it and appreciate it, because you'd think, especially after COVID, we would appreciate live entertainment more now than ever.
Absolutely. We have to pay our bills. My drummer drives on the turnpike to get here, and it's not $5.40 like it was in 1996. It's
exactly
$29 or something, and I take care of him based on that, but like eats into his body. It's not, I can't give him, I don't double his pay or anything, because then we're shorting everybody else, but it's tough for him. He's traveling, and it costs him a lot of money. And then, I think we're playing a place where the cover's only $5 and their capacity is 200 people. And you go, all right, well,
something's got to
I guess I'm doing it. You know what I mean? Look, those people can pay $10. Anybody can pay $10.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to be there for 3 hours watching live music, you can pay $3.33 an hour. I think the whole cover thing in general is nonsense.
Yeah.
I think it's absurd. I think you should have tickets, and then you should just have shows. You think about it, like, if we're playing at the Jazz Cafe and we have to charge $20 to get in the door, that's $20 that's not going in your register.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, if you did away with the cover, and you had 300 or 400 people in there spending an extra $20 a piece, you may have 400 people spending $100 a piece instead of 50. You know what I mean? And then you've gone ahead and doubled your revenue. So I think the cover thing in general is just stupid. If you have people in your place and the place is packed and they're all drinking, you're definitely making money. Why not just pay your band out of that?
Yeah.
And then people know that they don't have to like have $5 cash to walk into the door, $10 cash or $28 or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
It's just crazy. It's like taxing. It's like income tax. You're just like crippling. They started crippling us in 1908 or whatever, and
we're still failing it.
We're still like, oh, maybe it'll work this year. maybe if we take everybody's money before they get it, it'll be successful. You know, I'm considering trying to launch some type of subscription-based service where you could basically pay, you know, through an app or whatever it is, and then you can go see live music for free. You know what I mean? Like, oh, if you have the platinum plan, then you can go to a free show at here. You know what I mean? Almost like the Diners Club card, except for the live music.
That's a really cool idea.
Just like Fortnite, subscription-based, it's taking over the world.
Absolutely.
You know,
and there's a reason that Disney is doing Disney Plus and all that kind of stuff. They want some essentially an IV to your bank account. So
absolutely.
They can continue to pull out every month, whether or not you use that service or whatever.
Right.
A lot of people just kind of let those things ride. I mean,
right.
Sometimes you won't watch Netflix for 3 or 4 months, but you kept paying it.
Right. Because you don't want to lose it.
Yeah.
You don't have to enter your credit card in again and have log back in again and change your passwords.
Right.
You know, so I just canceled TV again for the first time in a couple of years. I went without cable television for like 15 years or something. And just used the first ever Apple TVs, those weird ones, and just bought whatever I wanted to watch. That way I was choosing it.
Right.
And then they gave me a crazy package or whatever. They said you have to do the triple play package if you want the gigabit internet or some nonsense like that. So I never use it. I never watch TV. You know, I watch Netflix or whatever. And like occasionally there's a show that I'll watch, but it's usually never on broadcast television or on cable television.
Yep.
You can always get it through the app, you know? And so I canceled it and my bill went down like $192. And I was like, oh God, it feels good.
Yeah.
Oh, it feels good. You know, there's no better feeling than taking your cable receiver to Comcast and then getting that receipt.
Right.
Taking a screenshot of the receipt and saving it so that they don't try to tell you that you didn't return it, you know?
Yep.
It's like once you go direct to the people, you like really create a fan base. So I feel like if bands could find a way to do that, like almost a subscription to local music, it would be like, I think it would be like game changing, but it might take a while. Yeah. And to have a venue that is on board with that.
To do that.
You know what I mean? Like have a venue that's on board with having it be like a member based, like almost like a gym membership.
Right.
Think about it. If you yourself had the opportunity to pay $50 a month, and it would get you into 5 local shows.
It's a gym membership I'd actually pay.
Exactly.
Actually use in some form or another.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
Yeah, because I know I'm going to
be like, oh man, like Dustin Douglas's show is under this.
Sure.
And that Cabinet acoustic show is.
And it's going to convince you to actually go, because I think so many people you hear, interested. They're interested on Facebook. They don't actually go.
I can't go. I got to work 2 days.
I got to see you. I'll catch you on the next one.
I have to wake up at 11 tomorrow. I can't go out tonight.
Yeah. But if you're doing that, you're going to be motivated.
Right. Exactly.
You're
and then even like taking it to the next level, like $100 a month, and you get to get half price to national acts.
Right.
So if the Kirby Center had a band that was $40, your ticket's $20 because you're paying. I think it would take a venue to launch that initially, and then once that, like almost like a members only, like you know what I mean, like all shows at this venue are essentially free because you're paying your monthly subscription, but you also get like perks, you know what I mean, you'd get like, you know what I mean, if you were a VIP member or something, you get like a one-on-one show, or like a tutorial on something, or even like a show that you'd never see anywhere else or something like that.
A lot of bands now do like pre-shows, like here's a set
sound check stuff like
sound
that
check show, something like that.
So cool. That's like something I've been kind of batting around at launching, but I mean my problem is I have way too many fingers in way too many pies.
Pies, yeah.
You know what I mean?
yeah.
You know, an idea comes into my head and I'll just like live with it,
Yeah.
you know, and then see if I can make you know, make some cake batter out of it or something. I don't know, you know. So hopefully that's the future, subscription-based live music.
Yeah, you heard it here first. And don't steal that idea, right?
Right. Yeah, it's already been stolen by Zuckerberg. He's on it right now.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. anything to
steal from the little guy.
Yeah, exactly. And have an original idea in his head and his entire life. But thank you so much for tuning in and watching the show. Hope you enjoy this. If you did, please like, please share, do all that social media stuff that they all tell you to do that may or may not work depending on Zuckerberg and his algorithms and
his infinite kind of takeover plan to launch space lasers that control our minds.
Yes. Trap us in the metaverse forever. You know, whatever the fuck that is.
Oh, Zuckerberg, what'll he do next?
Suddenly the stream ends immediately. Nobody sees this
we're
video
hauled out of here by a couple of men.
Yeah.
I was just watching I told you before I've been watching The Simpsons from the beginning with my daughter Grace, and we just watched the one where Homer discovers the internet, you know, and Flanders goes, "Oh, you can make a pretty penny selling stuff online." And Homer goes, "Oh, the internet, hey?" And he sits down at his desk and he's trying to come up with he's like, "Oh, I think I'll name it Microsoft." And oh, that's taken, you know, and then he's like, "Well, how about CompuHyperGlobaMegaNet?" You know, and then Bill Gates walks in and he's like, "I'd like to buy you out," you know, and then he has his nerds rough them all up and, you know, put his pencils in butter and stuff like that. You know, that's the future. Anytime somebody comes up with a good idea, somebody steals it. So let's hope nobody steals this one.
Yes. Exactly.
Thanks for having me. I do appreciate it. It. Follow Proud Monkey.
Thanks for coming on. Make sure you follow
proudmonkey.org and youtube.com/DustinsRock. Thanks to Gmail gods for that one. And then Instagram, I think we're Proud Monkey DMB, Twitter, DMB Proud, Facebook, Proud Monkey DMB, you know.
And merchbooth.com.
Merchbooth.com/proud-monkey, I think.
Something like that.
Something like that. I think there's a couple hyphens in there.
Yeah.
You know.
Buy some merch.
Buy some merch.
Guy.
It's hoodie season.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will see you here next Wednesday for another live streaming show. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.